Hello guys, we're going to talk about the pre-reading facilitation. So before we read about post-social Ukraine, I figured it'd be very important to actually learn about Ukraine itself, like its past, where it is now, and a little bit about the culture. I do know the Ukrainian fencing team, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, I'm Victoria Isaacson. You guys haven't met me yet, but let's get started. So, where is Ukraine? It's kind of important to know about geography because different countries impact each other. So Ukraine is located in the middle of Eastern and Western European countries. So it is a bridge, just like Turkey is. So it tends to get a lot of influence from both sides. It was taken over by Russia a few times, so it has a lot of Russian influence, it has a lot of Polish influences, and it has a lot of influences from the EU currently, which is important to note. This is an extremely brief history. It was absorbed by the Soviet Union in the 1920s, and then in 1932 and 1933 it suffered a massive famine under the Soviet Union, which created a great strife within the people with the Russians, but only half the people suffered from the famine, so only half the people hate the Russians, so it led to a great divide between the country. But this strife and this divide is still in the country today, which is why it's important to note the historical background. Then in World War II, there was a split in the country because half saw the Germans coming in as a savior, while half of them saw them as the Nazis, who they were, and stuck with the Russians. And then when the Soviet Union stayed in power after World War II, they remained as an independent entity, but under Soviet power, so part of the Soviet Union. And then when the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, they gained their independence. It's important to know this history, like I have stated, because it affects our future and how people understand their future. If someone's great-grandparent was killed by a certain group of people, they tend to hold a hate for them. So it's important to know where things come from, because it can cause tensions, and you want to understand where tensions come from. And just a fun fact, like, for example, their flag is the same flag they used in the early 1900s, late 1800s in their War of Independence, way before they got their independence. So they hold on to their history, and they're very prideful people. Let's look at modern Ukraine. In modern Ukraine, it's still that gateway between Western and Eastern European. And currently, they're trying to attempt to join the EU, which is kind of a middle zone place they're putting themselves in, causing a lot of tension in the country because half the people don't want to join, half the people do, because it pulls the country farther away from Russian influence, which some of the people don't want to do. It's a very large country. It's bigger than Texas, which is very big compared to most European countries. And it has a lot of divide, much like the US has, where a lot of people have opinions. But their cultural pride is as big and alive as ever. For example, for Easter this year, they had a 2-week-long festival. A lot of outside influencing countries come to visit for their festivals, and they never waver, and they're usually the same. They're a very prideful country. So we're going to talk about my experiences with Ukraine. The United States looks at a lot of countries for their wheelchair fencing program, which is what I'm in. But Ukraine, Italy, Hungary have been the front runners for a very long time in the wheelchair fencing world. So if we look at this one weapon, you see the Hungarians are first and second, but you see Ukraine is in third, and they've been holding this third through 1 and 2 place for many years. And Natalia has been holding the first place spot for a very long time in this weapon, along with the second place. And then once again in this other weapon, Ukraine is set in fourth. So it's the same people and the same program. So we tend to look at it as a country and try to understand what they're doing that we're not, that is putting their people ahead of our country and is making them do so much better on the international circuit training-wise. So they're clearly doing something well with their disability services if they have all these athletes that are succeeding. And they're very prideful of their athletes. Anytime they win, there's a lot of celebration. So that's my pre-facilitation post. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, post below.